so many of the Wonder Woman creators over the years, had a part in that movie, and to see ourselves, on there. The work itself is rewarding, but to have that acknowledgement really was something that I didn't know I would feel so strongly about.
So Cliff, Paper Girls is a series that works for readers on so many different levels. Now you're up to issue 16. Have you guys really been dropping little hints and clues about the central mystery all this time?
Yeah, I think that's one of the fun things about it, is that when you've been on this ride with us from the beginning, we're starting to pay off a lot of that. The readers have been like super patient and really cool about just following us on this roller coaster. But now with this fourth arc, we're gonna find out more about why the old timers are fighting the teenagers, and what it means for the timeline, and what it means about time travel, and why the girls are bouncing around.
What kind of conversations are you and Brian having about these hints and little clues, little crumbs that you're leaving everywhere, because time travel can get very tricky?
Right. It's. I imagine that Brian has like a chart somewhere that has, it just has lines crossing and going over, and it's just like a huge mess. It looks like some, crazy person's, jail cell or something like that. But I'm sure Brian has it figured out. He plans a lot, and he hasn't told me everything. He wants to keep the spice in the marriage, so he only gives me the script for the issue. I don't read it ahead of time. I don't know exactly what's happening in the next arc. So when I read that script, I'm learning a lot of new things about the story at the same time. Occasionally, if I have a question, I'll ask, but I know that also spoils a certain surprise for me. So in a way, I'm the first reader, I'm the first audience for the book. And how I take that script in is also what I try to then impart, into the book. But I think if I knew the whole story, then I wouldn't be feeling the surprises in the same way and feeling the revelations. So
does that help your artwork? Because that
yes,
sounds like a very unorthodox way to partner up on a book like this.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people, we talk about big plans and things like that, but there are details, and what I love is how Brian's able to parse out, and dole out answers and then new questions. So each issue script is always like a stage of discovery for me, and hopefully, that the fun that I have reading it also translates into the art.
Is there one of the girls that you're particularly drawn to, that you really enjoy working on?
Well, the nice thing about the book is that we've focused on a different girl for each arc. And with this arc, it's Tiffany, and being able to find out more about her history, as well as seeing where she is in the year 2000 is really great. So I don't have to play favorites, because with each arc, I get to, really dive in deep on that character and try and figure out for myself what's so cool about them, and make that character live and breathe on the page.
You guys, obviously because it's a time travel story, you guys jump around from era to era. Tell me about working in the 80s and having to come up with some of the details and the artifacts from there, because we've talked about it, that the book demands you do a lot of research for capturing each era. Has the 80s been fun, challenging, a pain in the ass?
The 80s stuff was great. We actually haven't really touched on too much 80s stuff since that first arc, because we've been bouncing around to different time periods. And each time it is a lot of research to try and figure out what are the hallmarks of any particular year, and what are people wearing, what are they eating, what are they watching. And with the 80s stuff, it was actually pretty easy. Having grown up, I'm more or less the same age as the girls, so I remember pretty well what 1988 was like and how different that was from, say, 1984.
Is there a particular era that you're kind of looking forward to taking on at some point?
Well, right now we're in the year 2000, and it's fun because it's kind of the recent past, but you really have to think, you forget how different it might have been. You forget that, phones were giant, cell phones were giant, and maybe not everybody had one. Stuff like that, and what people who weren't my age were wearing, and thinking about what was on TV, and what were the fashion trends, and what were people excited by, and what were they scared of. So you feel like an anthropologist or a historian trying to figure out, what pop culture was like, and because it's close enough that you think you know it, but then you realize it's been 17 years. Talk
about being able to tackle a book like this with Brian. create your own book that gives you a chance to do something outside of the superhero capes and tights world?
I don't think we'd be able to, like you said, we'd be able to do a book like Paper Girls unless it were creator-owned. There's so much of ourselves that's in the book because we're, a similar age to the girls, because it's about our history and a little bit about our sense of nostalgia, both good and bad, that it feels something really personal, and it's difficult to do that at a different publisher because you're not as in control of the product, of the book, of the story, of the characters, and you're always checking with someone, can we do this or can we do that?
Back when Image first started, Paper Girls was not the kind of book you'd see on the shelves. I mean, it was all big heroes, big hair, huge muscles bursting out on splash pages. I mean, you were a comics fan back then.
Yeah.
What do you remember about that time when the Image guys came out and kind of took the comics world by storm?
Yeah, I've been reading comics, when I was like 10 years old, and read for about 4 years voraciously, and then started to drop off. I hit high school and kind of, wanted to do other things, and so didn't really read comics for another 4 years until I went to college. And that's when the Image boom happened. That's when Image broke off, and the excitement of that was really infectious and inspiring. Similar things were, I think, also happening in independent film, where suddenly you felt like if you had an idea and you had enough passion for it, that you could find a way to get that on screen or on the page.
Who was the guy for young Cliff Chiang from the original Image guys?
I was reading all those books. Todd McFarlane, Spawn. There was something, everybody was talking about that book, and I loved, Wildcats as well, but there was something about Spawn that was just so weird, and I didn't know where it was going to go, that it really kind of grabbed me, and I ended up, doing some Spawn fan art that I sent in, and it's actually, I think, in the back of Spawn number 12. It was a drawing of Spawn and Violator. I think they cropped out Spawn, although I thought it was pretty well drawn. And it was just a picture of Violator, because they ran like a Violator fan art page, which is something that a serial killer would do, because who's going to draw fan art of Violator, But so unfortunately, I look like I'm really violent. But yeah, so that's maybe my first published artwork is in Spawn 12 or 11 or whatever it was, or 31. It's in there somewhere.
That's great. That's awesome. All right, so shifting gears now. Last thing, I'd love to get your thoughts on the Wonder Woman movie, because there were a lot of callbacks to yours and Brian Azzarello's run on the comic, which I'm imagining was quite flattering to you.
It was a great movie. I really thought Patty Jenkins pulled off the impossible with it. She really stuck to the core of what everyone thinks Wonder Woman is, and yet was able to also present it in a way that felt modern and fresh. It was very flattering to see, echoes and references to stuff that Brian Azzarello and I did, both visually and story-wise. You hope, whenever you work on a character, that something you do kind of stays on. You don't expect it in any way because of the way, those books come out, and just, everyone kind of contributes to it. It's a big melting pot, I remember coming out of that movie with Brian, when we went to the premiere in LA, I just kind of looked at him and was like, we're part of this now. Like, we're a part of that, the pop culture history of the character, aside from like our work on the comics, like now this is, something that people know about the character. People, know that she's the daughter of Zeus, that sort of thing. Or that, the Amazons felt very much like the Amazons that we put in the book, and, and Themyscira felt a lot like, the Themyscira we drew. So many of the Wonder Woman creators over the years, had a part in that movie, and to, see ourselves, on there. The work itself is rewarding, but to have that acknowledgement really was something that I didn't know I would feel so strongly about.